Okay, guys, Happy New Year. What I'm doing today is sharing with you Composite Pluto in the fourth house and Cancer, the fourth house. And I'm going to read a little bit to you from Robert Hand before I go on. I study evolutionary astrology and I read charts, but the other thing I do is that I look at Carl Gustav Jung, his work as well, because to me it goes hand in hand, because what we're trying to do is evolve and become individuated. So when we look at charts, what we're able to do is through the symbolism, understand and know ourselves. So let me read a bit from Robert Hand here, who's something I found, which also I'll put his book of aspects below the video, so that if you want to look at that on Amazon, you'll be able to get a copy of Understanding Aspects. So Pluto is the planet of death and regeneration. In a composite chart, it represents those energies that cause a relationship to go through periods of heavy change. When Pluto is operative, something goes out of existence and a new order comes into being. So that's what we need to understand, that it's just not, it's also to do with power. So it's not, and being empowered. So it's not just something dying and birth, death, it's also about regeneration as well. Its action is absolutely essential to prevent the stagnation that occurs when an old way of life has outlived its purpose. So we can see that in life, that things will outlive their purpose. You know, it can be an item of clothing we've got, it can be a car that we've bought, it can be a relationship, it can be a job. You know, things go in cycles and they can stagnate. And when things stagnate, if we don't make healthy changes, which Pluto will push us to do if we're not gonna, you know, make the changes we need. He says here, the old must be cleared away for room for the new, and the new state of being will follow. When dealing with Pluto, you must let go of whatever is going on through the Plutonian crisis. If you try and hold on to something that is probably dead, you will not succeed in saving it. So we've got to be aware of that. When we're only going to make situations worse, like if we're going to cling on to things. So he says, Pluto operates with such tremendous power that it may be divorced from its death and regeneration aspect and be experienced purely as power. So, you know, for instance, you could have like, you know, one of your personal planets trining Pluto, or Pluto trining one of your personal planets. You know, there are positive aspects with Pluto as well. But when we look at it in the composite chart, we're able to look at what's happening with a relationship and what the purpose of a relationship is. So I'm going to go to my next slide. There is more to read there, but I'll put the book below for you in the description. So this is evolutionary astrology. The house and sign where composite Pluto resides shows us the evolutionary intention and the prior life desire. So that's one point that, you know, really to take on board to understand. And then the next point is it shows us where the relationship left off. And then the polarity point, which is really important, shows us the way forward to resolve karmic issues. So when we look at Pluto in the chart, we're also going to make sure that we're looking at the polarity point. We're going to look at the north and south nodes and the location of the rulers as well, because that's going to show us what, you know, the way we're getting things done, how we're going about the relationship, how it's evolving. And then we're looking at the intention of the relationship will be seen in the polarity point of Pluto and the house and the sign it resides in. So the house and the sign. So if you're doing this with, you know, a partner or a work colleague, you're looking at somebody's chart, or, you know, sibling or your child, for instance, you do need to have the correct time of birth on both parts, on yourself and on that person as well. Otherwise, you're not going to get the house placements correct. And you want to get it right to understand what's going on. So also, if you get the Pluto, the soul's evolution through relationships, and that's Jeff Wolfe Green, and the book, I'll also put that link below for you. So you can see here, this is my natal chart, and if you can see my mouse here moving around on my screen, this chart's dated the 25th of December 2019, just over a week ago. And my Pluto is on my MC with Uranus there. You can see that on my chart. And, you know, when we're going to look at our own natal chart, we're going to see where it is. But now I'm going to show you something else. If you haven't seen a composite chart before, this is with a friend of mine. And what happens is if I put their chart with my chart, then we're operating as a 10th house Pluto. And, you know, this chart will give a lot of in-depth information of what's going on. And then what we'd also do in evolutionary astrology, we're going to look at the North Node, which with my friend, it's in Gemini. And then we'd look at the ruler of the North Node. The ruler, it's in Gemini, and the ruler of Gemini is Mercury. So we know, how we're going about this friendship. And also the South Node, and we'd look for, it's in Sagittarius, we'd look where Jupiter is. So it's quite in-depth stuff when you begin to look, but it really tells you a lot of information. So next, what I'm going to do is just read a short section here for you about what Composite Pluto 4th house means and Composite Pluto Cancer. So if you have that with somebody, it's about feeling safe and secure as it's been a past of emotional upheaval and no control over separation and deep insecurity and abandonment. Also, attempts to emotionally control and psychological emotional dependency can occur here. There are fears and a focusing on wounds and the helper and being helped, emotionally dependent of not wanting to heal wounds. So you've got to watch out for that with this placement, that, you just want to stay in a rut and not heal those wounds. There can be withdrawal, manipulation, shutting down anyone who poses as a potential threat. So if people want to come into your circle, that you might want to cut them out. There can be a lack of space, restriction, blame, a recreating of past problems. And you need to come to an understanding of your fears, and to evolve them and to stop being lost in the wounds and the emotions, and moving away from projecting also. And it's really important that you look at these issues. But how you would resolve this, like the resolution would be, the Composite Pluto polarity point would be the 10th house or Capricorn. And what you would do is you basically want to get to emotional maturity and learn to accept responsibility for your actions. That's both parties, not just one person. To stop projecting and see that emotional security is inside yourself. So you would work on this with somebody. If if you're close to them, you can sit down and discuss what that means. But if you've got the Pluto book, Jeff Wolfe Green, you're going to be able to really go into deeper detail on this. So I highly recommend that book. Also, it's about the allowance of people that are supportive and the removal of those that are not supportive. So you allow people in who are supportive, but you want to get rid of people. It sounds a bit harsh, but to look at the people you're hanging out with. And that can be including parents as well. If you've got parents that are busybodies and causing problems, you have to draw a boundary and a line. With what you've got with this 4th house Composite Pluto, is that you're going to have beneficial wisdom for others, and it's about the removal of any impurities, and it's about real nurturing that is lasting, and about God and divinity, and it's about ownership of your emotions. So the next slide, something from the Jeff Wolfe Green Pluto 1 book, and this is beautiful. I like to read this. It says, the need to merge with source, the universal, requires that the individual leaps into the abyss with faith, so that all barriers preventing this conscious union can be dissolved. Yet this evolutionary need is commonly met with a resistance and fear. So, we want to jump into the source and the universal, but then we meet it with fear. We're afraid. Yet this evolutionary need is commonly met with resistance and fear. Remember that bit. So if we know that we're resisting and we're feeling fearful, that we've got to work on that. Just as the wave can resist returning to the sea for a time, if you think about it, the wave can resist for a time, so does the egocentric identification within the individual within us resist surrendering to all that is the cosmic ocean of being from which he or she originated. And that's on page 346, but you can get that book too. And then I love this by Carl Gustav Jung. I study a lot of his work on individuation. And he says that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And it took me a long time to really understand that. But if we don't make the unconscious conscious, it's directing our life. That's all our early imprints. And that's Carl Jung. He was born in 1875, and I can't remember the year he passed. It was 70 something, but I could be wrong. 90, or maybe the 60s. I can't remember offhand right now. And then to me, I say that, I can see the direct connection to Pluto to that statement, looking at the depth and the unconscious. And then he did say what you resist not only persists, but it will grow in size. So recall that too. So that's it. That's my for this week, and I'll be back in a couple of days with Pluto composite in Leo. That's the next one. Okay, thanks for watching.